Hi everybody, so today we are looking at simplifying people and how we can use colour to help us further simplify them and to add personality and character. So it's not about just simplifying with the sketch and then just colouring in on autopilot. We're going to be intentional with the materials and the way that we use those materials to help us kind of further simplify but also amplify personality and character in those people. So technique number one is mixed media, and we're going to start by painting the faces or the skin tones and then using mixed media to add the features, add the hair, add the clothes. I really love this approach because you get a lot of fun colours and textures, but to me it also kind of takes the fear away a little bit, makes it fun, makes it more like a game. And I also think drawing an eye on a face with a pencil is a bit less scary than using a brush, for me anyway. So first thing, mixing some skin tones. This is just a little recap. I do have a whole video on this, but this is a very quick recap. So skin tones using primary colours, you're going to want to use your warm primary colours. So we've got Permanent Yellow Deep, a little bit of Flame Red, so we're going to get an orange, quite a lot of yellow tones in it, we don't want it too red, a little bit of Ultramarine Blue, which gives us a brown, and then I'm going to transfer some of that to different places in my palette, and then add some white, and some water just to loosen it up. So we've got a kind of paler skin tone there, just getting it all mixed, and then this one should be a little bit darker, and then just going to add a tiny bit of white to this one. We've got a deeper skin tone here, and we can keep mixing and make some more skin tones. So it's just about finding that balance, so we don't want it too red or too yellowy, and we need to add a bit of blue to make it a darker skin tone, but obviously we don't want to add too much blue because that's going to make it quite cool in tone, which we don't want. So we can add a bit more of the blue. So the blue's kind of cooling down those red tones and making it a deeper, darker brown, which is quite a nice colour. And then I'm going to separate some of that and add a little bit of white, but not much. We don't want to add much white to these darker browns because we don't want it to be too kind of cool in tone or starting to look grey. So we've got a range of colours there. So I'm just going to quickly paint some faces and then we can add some details on top. So I recommend you do the same, mix up some skin tones. You don't have to use the primary colours like me, you can use things like yellow ochre, burnt sienna, burnt umber, which will make the process a little bit quicker and easier. And then paint some faces and don't overthink it, just paint some circles and some ovals. Don't overthink it at all. And now we just need to wait for those to dry. Okay, so these are dry now. So first thing we're going to do is add some facial features, and thinking about this, I normally go for a pencil for things like the nose and eyes and mouth, and I would normally use a brown, and we want the brown to be slightly darker than the skin tone so that it shows up. So for paler skin tones I can use this one, which is raw umber. So I think I'm going to make most of these kids just because, I don't know, I think that's kind of where my head's at the moment. I draw quite a lot of kids and I do a lot of kids in this style. I find it makes it really fun for children's books. So I'm going to do these kids. So we're just going to have a little upturned nose like that. Maybe a little smile. And then eyes with a black pencil. Really, really simple, really cute. And then cheeks. So we could go for cheeks with a coloured pencil. I normally use a Neocolour pastel because the colour is a little bit softer. So we've obviously got a much kind of broader, more blunt edge to this than on a pencil. So it's just going to make it a little bit softer. And those kind of undefined edges, soft edges. So we've got some rosy cheeks. Thinking about this one, I haven't put the neck in, so I think I'm going to do a hat and a scarf in a minute, but I might do some other faces first. So with a dark skin tone, we're going to need a darker brown. This isn't going to show up, so this is Van Dyke Brown. And that does show up, so you just need to make sure that whatever brown pencil you're using, it's a little bit darker than the paint. And then black for some eyes. And then I'll add some hair in a minute. Okay, we've got this one over here. I might do a couple as adults. Maybe this one's going to be an adult as a little demo. So, so for an adult, I would probably do a longer, slimmer nose. So for a child, it's going to be a small nose or a little upturned nose. But for an adult, maybe it's more of a nose like that, so a longer bridge. And I've done a little dot for the eye, but I've done that kind of top lid as well. Cheeks haven't really shown up, so again you need to make sure, I need to make sure I'm using a colour that's slightly darker, so maybe a different pink would work for the cheeks. And then if I'm doing this as an adult, so if I'm doing this as a woman, maybe I would do the lips with pencil. So a question I get asked a lot with mixed media is how do you choose pencil or Neocolour? And what it usually comes down to is pencil is good for fine details, Neocolour is good for broader, softer, more expressive lines. So I would use a pencil for lips. So I've just kept it very, very simple. That is, what colour is that? That's carmine for the lips. So just very simple. Okay, got another one here. So this is going to be another adult. So again, we've got that longer nose and a little wiggle. It's completely up to you how you do noses. You don't have to do noses the way I do them, but generally speaking, adults are going to have longer noses. Children are going to have shorter, more rounded noses. I'm going to go for a different lip colour. and a different lip shape. And the nice thing about this is you're just kind of playing and having fun. It's just really fun, you know, trying different materials, different lip colours, different lip shapes, that kind of thing. So this is more kind of peachy. And I think I'm going to have fun with some glasses with this one. Trying to decide what colour, like a really fun colour. Maybe do I want to go pink or do I want to go purple? I'm going to go pink. And I did the glasses first just to make sure the eyes were kind of in the right place in the glasses. Little hint of eyebrows, some freckles, just a hint of the chin, but we don't need to draw a line all the way under. And then just thinking about, at the moment everybody's bald, so I'm going to be putting hair on people at the moment in a minute. Let's do this one. So another child, and again when you're doing children you want their faces to be kind of more round, so this will be a child and this will be a child too. So I do want to add rosy cheeks to this. I'm thinking maybe going for whether that's going to stand out or whether I need to go a little bit deeper. Yeah. But you can see with the pencil it's a different look to the pastel, it's not as soft. And eyes closed with this one just for fun. And last one, really cute little nose. And when you're doing kids, always kind of keep the eyes low and wide. And again, this skin tone, this pink was too peach, it didn't show up, so I think, and this one's more cool tone, so I think this one, which is salmon pink, is going to be the one. Okay, so now I can start putting on hair and hats and that kind of thing. This one, I don't know why, but I'm kind of feeling a like a beret, so just kind of filling in around the head with the Neo Colour Pastel, which is good for kind of this deep, rich colour, and it goes over the paint no problem, but you don't have as much control as a pencil. And then thinking beret, and then I'm just going to fill that in, and I want it to be quite solid. And then, you know, I could put in a hint of a t-shirt. If I just do a few little stripes like that, you get a sense of the t-shirt. I feel like the beret isn't black enough. If I go over it a little bit, you can see it's actually so much more intense with the Neo Colour Pastel. So I'm just gonna fill that in. That's a bit better. So very cute. So up here, deciding what I want to do with this one. I feel like they need rosy cheeks as well. It's quite cute. And then I love this, I love Neocolor Pastels for working over the top of paint. It's so lovely and opaque and rich. So I think I'm gonna go for quite a fun, colourful hairstyle, and then I'm going to use some more of these to put some little bubbles in. Define the chin a little bit more. You can see that using the Neocolor Pastels is a really fun way of doing hair and adding the accessories. And talking of accessories, I'm just going to come over to this one. So this one is going to have a hat and a scarf. And I feel like I draw kids with kind of hats and scarves quite often for licensing, children's book stuff, greetings cards, that kind of thing. That's quite a common thing. So let's do the top of that woolly hat there. And then contrasting colour. And then pom-pom on the top. And then hair, so I think I'm going to go for pencil. I'm going to give him curly red hair. There we go. And then maybe a scarf as well. And you can see with the Neocolor it makes a big difference whether we're pushing hard or pushing lightly. So I think I want the colour to be a little bit more solid. Still want it to have a kind of a fluffy edge to the scarf, but I want it to be a bit more solid and intentional. And then I'm going to go over the top with some stripes. Okay, we've got that, very cute. This lady over here, what do I think? Maybe woolly hat as well. And I'm thinking dark hair. I'm going to sharpen my black Neocolor a little bit, just to give me a bit more precision. And you can't really get them quite sharp. I mean, I leave them quite blunt to make me a little bit looser using them, but you can obviously get them very sharp and precise. So just thinking hat. So I'm going to work out that the hat's probably going to go about here. And then we've got hair kind of peeping out from the hat. I feel like I've definitely done her ears too high up, but never mind about that. So let's fill in the hat. And we can go right over the top of her head because it's very opaque. Just filling that in. And then with her hair, I think I kind of want to go for quite a nice shape with the hair. And then thinking about what she's wearing, maybe kind of very autumnal or kind of wintry. And we've got this one here, I think. Go, lovely soft textured hair. So I love, I'm getting grubby bits everywhere because I've got a little bit of Neocolor on my fingers. I love Neocolor pastels for building up this texture. It's really lovely. And maybe give her a stripy t-shirt. And last one, I think this is going to be another woolly hat. So just picking my colours. That one and that one. I've already got that one there though. So it's up to you whether you want the hat to go kind of straight across like that or curve round. I feel like with the kids, because they've got such round heads and they're kind of looking up at us, it's quite nice to have this kind of going round like this. And then some hair. We can kind of have that going over the brim of the hat a little bit, so the hair's kind of coming up like that. And then doing the scarf. So as you can see, we can have loads of fun using mixed media to create characters, to build people, to add their facial features, but also to have a lot of fun with accessories. And this is a technique that I use a lot in my work. I could do these all day long. They are so much fun. I really encourage you to have a go doing some little mini portraits like this using mixed media. But now we're going to look at using mixed media and doing a full length person. So not just head and shoulders, doing the full length. And for this, I've got some images from Google Street View. So using Google Street View to draw people is kind of my one big secret of how I got better at drawing people and drawing natural looking people, people with kind of realistic body language and movement, walking, talking, shopping, that kind of thing. For me, Google Street View, it has the kind of the feel of drawing people from life, sitting outside at a cafe, but you're doing it from the comfort of your own home and everybody's staying still, which is very convenient. So yeah, I drew a lot of people from Google Street View and it really helped me improve my people drawing skills. I'm just going to find some. So these are some examples, and you can see these people are very, very simplified, but at the same time they feel real. And for me, that's the sweet spot, being simplified and pared back, but feeling real, like, you know, the body language, the movement, just feels observed from life. You know, if I made up somebody in my head, I don't think they would feel this well observed. I mean, I know they wouldn't be, but at the same time, I've really pared things back and kept things very, very simple. And this is kind of my sweet spot. I really like this way of working, and working from Google Street View really helped me build up a catalogue of how people look. And some of these aren't finished, but you can really see people's body language. You know, this lady feels quite confident, this guy does not look confident. You know, it's how he's holding his head, his shoulders are slumped, his head's back, whereas, and this foot's kind of behind, whereas look, that confident stride, also quite confident. This guy looks like he's going to work, a lot of straight lines, he's got his coffee. So yeah, you can learn a lot about body language from looking at people on Google Street View. And I like it because people don't know they're being photographed, so they're being completely natural and authentic. But you can't see too much. People's faces are blurred out. So straight away, you're not going to fixate on creating a likeness, getting their face accurate, because you can't see their face. The only thing you can really see is their outfit and their body language, which is perfect for loosening up, drawing people and learning to capture body language and posture. So I'm going to get some examples up on the screen and yeah, we will get started. So when I'm using Google Street View to find reference images of people, I always pick a particular area, and certain areas work well. So it needs to be somewhere busy where there's a lot of people on the street, but for me, I don't want a really kind of corporate area. Like I wouldn't pick the City of London because everyone's going to be in suits with briefcases, which is going to be quite monotonous. I want variety of people. So I've picked Marylebone in London, which is an area I know really well. My grandparents used to live there, and it's quite a stylish area, so people have some nice outfits, a little bit of kind of flair with how they're dressing, which is fun. So I'm going to sketch very, very lightly. We've got some ladies outside a charity shop. So we've got this kind of puffer coat, her hair's coming down, her head's kind of looking to the side, and then we've got one leg kind of back, one forwards, and then her feet. And you can see my sketching process is really, really quick and simple. I don't want to overwork it. I think she's got sunglasses on her head. Okay, next lady. Kind of a different mood, our next lady, very bold in terms of her stance. I don't know why I've started sketching from the feet. I'm going to get all the proportions wrong. I think I'm going to ignore that and start again. So our second lady, kind of a different mood. I love that scarf, the colour, the way it's blowing in the wind, her whole stance, amazing. So I'm just going to make sure she's kind of the same height as this lady, head kind of the same size. She's got lovely curly hair, and then we've got that scarf, which is amazing. And to me, straight away, my kind of illustrator's mind is thinking, if I need a reference one day of a lady with her hair and a scarf blowing in the wind, I've got this beautiful image that I could then use and adapt for something. So we've got this quite long kind of suit jacket on. I can't even see her fingers. And then we've got this very strong line. The trousers are kind of wider here, and then we can see her foot. Important to see that little bit of ankle. And we've got that other trouser there, and we notice got line there, and then this one goes up a bit, and the foot's kind of pointing the other way. And we've got, I think the tailoring is quite important on the jackets. We've got pocket and the collar, the lapel, that's the word I want, the lapel. We've got hand here, we've got the scarf, and that one is wrapping over her hair. And then we've got another lady over here, kind of from behind. So if she's from behind, I'm going to sort of show her neck so we get the sense that she is from behind. Got her hair in a bun, collar coming up like that. And then the coat. I don't want to get into too much detail around here because I do want to kind of keep these very simplified. And then we've got the arm coming down and up, so we're kind of seeing that arm from behind, the shoulder from behind. And then we've got a boot here, and then one slightly turned away. Okay, and then I'm going to paint those faces and then have a go filling them in with mixed media. Just using the skin tones that I have left over on the palette. And just remembering we've got a little bit of exposed skin there on the ankle, so just putting that in, and there's a hand there. Don't think we can see this lady's hands at all, which is, it's always a gift when you don't have to paint hands, I'm going to be honest. And then just painting this lady. Hand, legs, and then going to start to fill in with mixed media. So this lady's got lovely dark hair, so I could do that with my brown pencil. And it's slightly wavy, so just kind of putting that in. And I can see a little bit of her black t-shirt, so putting that in kind of there. And with pencils generally I press quite hard because I want a solid bit of colour. So she's got this kind of silver puffer jacket. I also feel like she's got, can only just see, but I think she does have sunglasses. And I'm gonna give her a little rosy cheek. Right, silver puffer jacket. I think this colour, this is light grey. Let's try that. I'm just thinking, how am I going to do the puffer? Maybe I'm just going to colour it in sections. And that will give us the sense of it being a puffer jacket, perhaps. We'll see. I find with something like this, it's just all about play, really. All about just having fun and experimenting and seeing what works. And then she's got kind of corduroy trousers, so I could go for yellow ochre and use the Neocolor pastel, but I could kind of go for the texture of the corduroy and use a pencil. So yeah, that would kind of do these little fine lines, and then we get the sense of it being corduroy, kind of inspired by that corduroy. And we've got these turn-ups, which are cute. And I feel like I need a little bit of definition on those, and probably on the jacket a little bit. And then black shoes. And then we don't even need to do the facial features because we can't see them, but if you want, you know, you can add them just for fun, but I would do them so simply. So maybe just a dot of this Venetian red, which is quite a natural colour for the lips, like just a little dot, and just gonna add an eye and an eyebrow, but just keeping it so simple, and just a little bit of definition. I really like that. I'm happy with how she's looking. That was fun. I'm not sure about this shoe. I think I've made it too chunky, but never mind. Okay, next lady. This one. So she's got kind of lovely curly hair, so I'm using the same pencil but different techniques. So just doing these curls. And then the colour of the scarf, I think it's got to be this one, and it's this gorgeous bold colour. Just getting those tassels. And then just looking, her trousers are black, her jacket is more kind of charcoal, so bringing in that definition. So this is greyish black, which I think will be good for the jacket. I'm just going to sharpen it a bit. And I'm just going to leave a little bit of a smidge of white space around things. Not pressing so hard so it isn't too heavy, and then having that kind of variation between these lighter bits and these darker bits. I do kind of feel like I almost want to see her fingers a tiny bit, even though you can't see them in the image, just so it kind of reads that her arm is there. Same with this one, just kind of a tiny bit. And then trousers, we have black trousers. I could go for black neo colour, but I just want a bit of a contrast of texture. So I'm going for pencil, and that's also going to give me a kind of a neater, smooth edge. So I can get a nice sharp edge here. Oh, I am always snapping the ends of my pencils because I press really hard. This one behind I'm pressing even harder because I want it to be darker to show that this leg is behind. And then shoes, they're kind of a warm brown. Do I have a pencil that colour? I know I've had one that colour, but can I find it? Let's try this one. So just filling in the shoe, and if I'm working on the shoe and I realise my initial sketch is in the wrong place, I just ignore my initial sketch and just do what I know is kind of right, what I know is working, and then put the soles in. And then I feel like I want to neaten up the edges of her suit. I feel like this texture is distracting me a bit. Right, let's do her cheek and define her a little bit. Okay. Give her a closed eye. And then this one, our last lady. So she's wearing that lovely blue coat, and we can see her from behind, and she's got her hair up, which is a really great thing to practice and to demo actually. So let's do the hair. I'm going to show that bit of the neck and show the ear so that we get a sense that it's that she's looking this way. Bit of a cheek and a bit of an eyelash there, so we get the sense of her really looking that way. And then the coat, which is, I'm going to do kind of this colour, and then we've got collar there. And as I'm doing this, if I feel like I want to get rid of all these lines and just simplify it further, then I will go with that. I will kind of let the materials lean the way and let the materials, the chunkiness of them, help me simplify this. Because I don't need to draw every little lump and bump of the coat, because really what I'm wanting to do is stylize this quite a bit. So and then boots. Just kind of getting the shape of the boot, so that defined heel. And the weight's obviously on this boot, this one's kind of turned away. And could always erase that very carefully. So that's how I would use mixed media to help me draw these people from Google Street View, and just help me have fun with it really, and be quite playful and experimental and not get too bogged down in detail and accuracy, and just still capture the essence of the people but in quite a simplified way. So in our next demo we are going to be painting, not using mixed media, but we're going to be using our paintbrush very intentionally, and we're going to try and use the fewest number of brush strokes possible. So ideally what we want to go for is each limb is a single brush stroke. Brush strokes tend to be, you know, kind of long and sausagey shaped, which is ideal for limbs, so it's really doable. I love working in this way. It brings a lot of simplicity, and you see the movement of the brush, which I really like. So if we look at pieces like this, you can tell this leg, you can tell that was a single intentional controlled brush stroke. You can see the movement of the brush, you can see that lovely kind of grain that we've got there that adds a lot of texture. And the same with the legs, with these various limbs, with the scarf. You can tell each one is a single brush stroke that's just been kind of pulled down. And for me, I find it helps me really simplify but also bring a lot of life, because you get the sense of the movement of the brush and the texture. So we've got another scene from Marylebone High Street. So I love this lady with her kind of orange flares and her blue jacket. She's very cool, so I'm just going to sketch her. And all the sketching I've been doing is with this raw umber from Faber-Castell, but I'm sure Caran d'Ache probably do a raw umber as well. It's a really nice kind of undersketch colour for people, and I use it a lot. As you can tell, it's really short, and I haven't actually had it very long, so it's a good one. Right, let's sketch this lady. And the first thing I do when I'm sketching like this is always simplify the face. we can hardly see the face anyway because it's Google Street View, so you might as well do this kind of simplified face and then that little triangle nose, neck, you can see her ear, hair. Don't want to do this too big because the bigger my drawing gets, the more the tighter it's going to get. The bigger it is, the more detail I'm going to feel like I need to put in. So I don't want that. I just want arm, coat. Just holding something. I might need to make this head a little bit smaller. It's getting a bit big. Leg. She's got this really wide stance, this kind of wide walk. Very confident, which I like. And then we can see, so this foot is going up, this foot is down, it's kind of solidly on the floor. And this is why I love Google Street View, because you can see what people really look like when they're walking rather than you imagining it or finding like a posed stock photo or something. Just going to make her face a smidge smaller. That's just made the whole thing slightly grubby because it's not a very clean eraser, but it'll be fine. Okay. That's better, kind of more in scale. Okay, so, and then she's holding something to her chest as well, looks like a book. And I'll sketch this other lady as well because she's just got a different kind of walk, which is quite nice to see. So with her, we've got the head kind of the same size. So again, simplifying the head to start. We've got the jacket kind of right up here, hair kind of pulled back. Arm in pocket, jacket kind of pulled forwards, and then bag at the back. And then she's just at a different point mid-walk. We've got this wide stride, whereas she's just put this foot down. And this one is behind, so the toe is just touching the floor. So at the knee we can see I've said it's a woman, I can't actually tell, it could be a man, not sure. Anyway, actually no, it's probably a woman because of the bag. Yeah. Okay, and then let's paint those, trying to use as few brush strokes as possible. So I'm not going to count that with the faces. I would just, but for the clothes, I'm going to try and be really intentional with my brush strokes. So first thing, we've got that lovely blue jacket. And I want to emphasize the nice kind of soft shapes. So I'm picking up lots of paint on my brush, it's quite loose, and I'm going to do that arm first, kind of in a single swoop, so just bringing it down, and then like that, and then I'm just going to finish it off and do the collar there. the cuff, and then I'm going to do the collar, and we've got this kind of pull forwards, so I'm going to and then join up here, and then we can see, looking up a little higher, a little bit here. Okay. So very, very simply painted. And then we've got her amazing trousers. I've realised I'm not going to be able to do them in a single brush stroke because they get wider at the end. If they were kind of a more of a straight shape, I would be able to, but they're too much of a wide flare. But they're still really fun. They're going to be fun to do. So let's take the shape as we've kind of got. I'm going to do one side. And then this one. And I could make this one a tiny bit darker if I wanted to have that sort of contrast. And then her hair. I'm just going to wait until her face is completely dry before I paint the hair. Okay, so this lady, it's got this lovely kind of muted pinky beige trousers. So I'm going to try and do these kind of one brush stroke on that side. There we go. And by holding my brush on the side, I get this wider brush stroke, so it means I can just do that whole line in one brush stroke, and it just kind of stops me fiddling around too much. And then the jacket, we've got this black jacket with the stripes, so I'm just going to mix up the colour for that. I'm just doing a chromatic grey for that, so mostly ultramarine with a little bit of flame red and permanent yellow. So one brush stroke for there, one brush stroke for the other side. And then we've got the bag here. And the collar. So just a single line across for the collar. And then we've got that lovely bag that she's holding. So just single line, I'll do that one when it's a bit more dry. And then just pulling the brush straight down with that wide brush stroke. And then with the same colour, painting the feet. So kind of coming down, up for the heel, flick, and then filling that in, and then joining that one. So just my very, very simple way of doing a formal shoe. So heel, sole, join, flick, and then fill in. Up. And then I need to do this lady's hair. I'm painting this at a slightly awkward angle so I don't get my hand in this wet paint. I have to move my hand around here. But I've tried to do this in kind of as few brush strokes as I can, and we've got a nice sort of sense of the shape there. This lady has got kind of peroxide blonde hair, which is always really tricky, but I'm going to use some of that chromatic grey with a bit of white, I think. And just kind of paint in the shadows basically. And then needs that red stripe on here. Again, just doing it one brush stroke. And I need this book, it's kind of a light blue colour. So I just need to make sure that it stands out against her jacket, which is also light blue. So I'm just going to make sure it's a bit lighter. And just realise I need to bring the skin tone down a tiny bit here. And then shoes, white shoes on a white background is always really hard. I'm going to get a smaller brush and just get some grey. Okay. I'm just going to sort of finish the top of her hair. Just going to make this a touch darker so you get the sense of it being behind. And then we could do finishing touches with mixed media. So I do always love this for doing a rosy cheek and adding a little bit of definition to people's faces. Just very conscious of putting my hand in that wet paint. Going to give them a little bit of shadow to kind of ground them a little bit, and you can see where the foot's lifted off the ground with the shadows. And I think I'm going to put in a darker sole on that one. Put all my pencils away and I can't find any of them now. Here we go, Van Dyke Brown. it's just these tiny little details, like putting in that darker soul. It just kind of brings it together without kind of fussing over details too much. Okay, so that's how I would paint those two ladies, very simply, trying to use as few brush strokes as possible. So where I can, trying to kind of lead with a smooth brush stroke. I didn't actually pick the best examples for this, but hopefully you can see how I've tried to paint them as simply as I can without kind of a lot of fussing around with adding too many shadows and folds of fabric and that kind of thing, just trying to capture the essence of them really. Good way of practicing that in a slightly simpler way is to have a go drawing somebody and just challenge yourself to use as few brush strokes as possible. I make them really teeny tiny, so just I'm going to call that 1. Going to put them in a coat. I'm just going to use colours that I've got on my palette already. So we're going to have an orange coat. So let's see if I can do a nice broad brush stroke. There we go. There's the coat. So that's brush stroke number 2. Trousers. So we're going to do trouser 1. There we go. 2. Shoes. So do a little wiggle for the heel and then flick up, little wiggle for the heel and flick up. So I think that is brush stroke 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're on 6 brush strokes now. I'm going to do the arm and that's a bit more dry. And I'm going to make it slightly darker. So we've got arm, another brush stroke. We could do a collar, that's another brush stroke. I'm going to do hair when the face has dried. Maybe I'm going to do a bag, so I'm going to try and do that. 1 brush stroke, square, and then another brush stroke for the handle. Another brush stroke for the hand. And then let's go hair. And then maybe a little hat. So that is a really basic exercise, but it's a great way of loosening up drawing people. Draw a teeny tiny person like that and make each arm, each leg, the body, the head, all 1 brush stroke, and it will really help you loosen up and have fun with drawing people. So for our final exercise, we're just going to look at putting those 2 techniques together, so bringing together the mixed media and the painting, and just focusing on working small. I think this is really important. So if you look in my sketchbook, these people are pretty small, and this is important because it stops you fixating on things. It stops you going, oh, have I got that face right? Have I got that hand right? I mean, the size of the hands, they're tiny. You can't spend too long fixating on individual body parts and trying to get them right. Instead, working small forces you to see the person as a whole. So instead of going, have I got the face right? Have I got the hand right? You think, is their posture right? Is their body language right? Are they in proportion? And you start to see the figure as a whole so that you can simplify individual elements because everything's working together. So yeah, I really like working smaller for drawing people. just stops things getting kind of too tight and too fussy, and I really recommend it if you want to kind of loosen up and simplify more with people. So just got a few more images from Google Street View, and I'm going to sketch some people. So I love this mother and son on the scooter, very, very cute. And this is quite a good example to include actually, because we've got the differing proportions. So we've got mum. So even though her head's covered in hair, I'm going to sketch the head, shoulders, and I put the hair in later. We've kind of got an arm coming there. Jacket. And then legs quite strong. And then we've got this bag, which kind of helps give a bit of directionality. Bag. And then her hair, some of it's in front of her shoulder and then some's behind. And it's kind of going this way. And we've got another big bag there as well. So we've kind of got a sense of her stance. And then we've got the little boy. And the thing to remember with kids, their proportions are not like ours. They're not like little adults shrunk down. So some things are bigger in proportion, some things are smaller. So their heads are really big in proportion to their bodies. Babies' heads are huge in proportion to their bodies. And the biggest thing I've noticed with most people when we did our last drawing challenge is people did great drawing the adults. People found the kids really hard, and they found getting the kids' heads really hard, getting the shape, but also just getting the size in proportion to their bodies. So kids have big heads in proportion to their bodies. They also have really tiny hands and feet in proportion to their bodies. Don't know why that is, but yeah, kids, that's why kids' shoes look so adorable, because they're just like so tiny compared to ours. Like my son's shoe looks really small next to mine, but then his hat doesn't look that much smaller than mine because proportionally his head's big, but kids have small hands and feet. So worth bearing that in mind when you're drawing kids. So kind of drawn a rough line here where the feet are going to be. Top of his head's about here. So head's going to be quite big compared to his body. And he's on his scooter in his school uniform. And also we've got this enormous backpack, which is so cute. And then the legs are going either side of the scooter. The legs are a little bit smaller. But and then he's kind of looking down, so collar, head down. We've got the handle of the scooter there. I feel like I need to get him looking down a bit more. But we've kind of got the basics there. And he's got quite a lot of hair. I've made the backpack a little bit too big, a little bit comically big. I haven't gotten quite in line with his mum, but I think that's all right. Okay, and then I'm going to do, there's a lady walking by in pink, so I'm going to draw her as well. So just kind of capturing that, her walk, how her heels lifted here. How her hand kind of goes back. And she's got this Gilet, which gives us quite a nice colour palette. Very subtle bend of the knee here, but I don't want to kind of over exaggerate it. And then her hair, sunglasses, and just kind of refining as I go along. The gilet isn't that bulky. Okay, and then just looking at how I would combine paint and mixed media. So painting first of all. Can we see, I don't think we can see any of the mum's face at all, so it's only a tiny little bit of the boy's face and his hand, and then this lady here we can see a little bit of her face. And her hand. So I think I'm going to go for the boy's uniform, I'm going to paint it, and then I think the scooter I'm going to do in pencil or pastel, and it'll kind of stand out nicely. So I'm going to do that arm with a single brush stroke, and you see it just gives this nice kind of smooth fluidity to the arm, and just holding my brush on the side so you get that thicker brush stroke, and then I'm going to kind of fill in the rest of it. Leaving a little bit of white space. And then we've got a leg. So again, brush on the side, bringing that down, a single brush stroke. Just make it a little bit wider at the top. And then we've got this other leg here, which is kind of coming out a bit. And then we've got that big backpack that he's wearing. She needs to have a water bottle in it. And then the strap. And then I'm going to go for a nice pink rosy cheek, which I also find with kids helps them look young. And then mixed media, just debating with his hair. I think I'll paint his hair, he's got lovely hair. And then the scooter is kind of really bright red. So I'm putting that in with Neocolor Pastel, which just keeps it really, really simple, stops me kind of fussing around with the scooter too much. And can put the wheels in. And he's got, the bottle is red, so I'm just going to put that in. And just do his shoes. Just keeping these kind of super simple. And then we've got his mum, so, well, I've got the black on my brush. I'm going to do those legs kind of in a single brush stroke if I can, so bringing the brush down and then just kind of neaten that up a bit. And then this one. And I'm going to do her jacket, which is that light grey. Just kind of really looking at the shape of it. So not drawing all those wrinkles, just looking at the shape that she's making and the jacket's making. It's all quite boxy. I'm working fast, so I'm going to leave a smidge of white space between the jacket and her legs so it doesn't bleed. And then just putting in a little bit of detail on her shoes. And then while that's drying, I'm going to put in some mixed media, so looking at that bag that she's carrying, just choosing the right green. And the boy, I'm just going to put a little bit of detail in his hair. And he's got a blue shirt on, so I just need to find a light blue and put that shirt collar in. Go. Little bit of detail on the hands. Got the rest of this bag. I don't know if I've got quite the right colour for it, like a Hessian colour, so I might just paint the rest of the bag. I'm going to use some of the white of the paper, just roughly putting in the bag, and we've got this bag here as well. And then hair, I'm going to paint her hair because I've painted the son's hair, but I can go over it with a little bit of mixed media if it needs it. I'm going to add a bit of extra paint to this so it's sort of pooling in some areas, giving the sense that this is kind of shiny, glossy hair. And then putting in some shadows, which can help define those white trainers by putting in the shadows around them and putting some shadows in on that bag. And then just putting in some very kind of sparing details. Need to wait for her hair to dry a bit before I put in a bit more detail there. And then this lady here, this lady here, she's got this kind of pink tracksuit on, so I'm going to paint that first. Kind of a muted pink. Trying to do this with one brush stroke where I can. And just very subtly showing the movement of the leg, that kind of bend at the knee, but I don't want to over exaggerate it, I want to kind of keep it as simplified as possible. her gilet, I might do that mixed media just for fun. You know, this is my idea of fun. You're like, let's go wild and use some colour pencil. Okay, what colour? I think this one would be nice. And then you get that nice contrast between the wet paint and the dry materials. You get that nice sharp edge. It also lets you kind of work a little bit quicker as well, because this paint's still wet, but as I'm not going right up to the wet edge of the paint, I'm leaving a little bit of space. I can kind of get working with the pencil straight away, whereas if I was using paint, there'd be more risk of them bleeding into each other. So we've got that. It's got white trainers, but it's got some blue socks, so I'm just going to put those in, and I like spotting those little details. And then her hair. And then her hair's quite multi-tonal, so I'll put some more details on that in a minute. I think she's got sunglasses on. It's hard to see, obviously, in this image, but I think they're sunglasses. Just need to find my black pencil. While I look for that, I'm just going to in the face and put in some detail on her hair. And then looking, I mean, she's really looking right down because this is London and everyone's looking down as they're walking, but I'm going to have her looking down slightly. Let's dry. And then I just put in some very kind of subtle detail, probably on the legs, to just define the trousers a little bit. But just subtle, maybe just the cuffs. And then we've got the trainers. Everyone loves white trainers and they are so hard to draw. So we've really got that heel up, and then this one's kind of down, just sort of showing where the sole is, and these have got a little bit of black at the back, so I'm going to put that on. And then can put some shadow around. I mean, the nice thing about these images is you can see the shadows really, really clearly. So if you wanted to, you could kind of copy the shadow exactly, but I'm just going to keep it very loose and just kind of use it to help define those shoes. So there we are, how I would paint those people very, very simply and quickly, and how I would combine the painting and the mixed media, so the wet and the dry, and what I would use for each and why. So where I would use all paint or all neocolours, all pencil, or combine the two together. So for example, on the hair, it's really nice for adding that texture and making it look more multi-tonal. So I hope this has been a helpful video and that you feel like you've picked up some techniques for painting and drawing people, but also using your materials in a really intentional way to help you further simplify your people and kind of bring personality and character to them.